Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sprint. Mars here. I'm here with my boys, PD and Cal. Say what's up, gents.
What's going on?
Hey, ready to rock.
Hey, so there's this thing that dropped on Twitter and picked up by Bleeding Cool about Greg Capullo sending out a couple of tweets regarding FCO Placencia, who was the colorist for the the Wolverine Revenge comic book that they were working on. It's caused a whole bunch of hubbub, consternation, and fighting amongst the community of creators. So I'm just going to read to you what Capullo said, basically. A couple of days ago from Bleeding Crew, Greg Capullo posted the following about colorist FCO Placencia and their work together on Wolverine Revenge comic book series written by Jonathan Hickman, which has been slipping down the schedules. Heads up, gang, FCO has quit. Wolverine before it's the completion. Deadline pressures aren't for everyone. I'm certain that we'll have a suitable replacement that will give you the highest quality product possible. Ever onward. So then a couple of days later, this caused a bunch of fuss, and he deleted it. But then he subtweeted, I can't stress enough to would-be comic creators, unless you're willing to forego friends and hobbies and accept sometimes strenuous deadline pressures, this biz ain't for you. I've been known to work 12 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for weeks on end. It's not easy. At times it's unhealthy. Choose wisely. This was also deleted, as plenty of comic book creators had comments to make both for and against. Later, Capullo added, I've just received great news, secured a heavy hitter to take over color duties of Wolverine Revenge. Let's roll. As well as saying first, my Sicilian grandmother scrubbed floors till she was 76, kept a garden, an immaculate house, cooked for the family, kept going strong after a stroke, knee replacement. This was my example. This is the cloth that I'm cut from. This woman is what I greatly admire. And then putting the whole thing in context, my lovely wife is away on a retreat for the weekend. This is the only reason I broke my own policy of never engaging on social media. I always regret it. Please talk amongst yourselves. I've got drawings to draw and someone else to color them. So some of the stuff that's coming out, for example, Greg and Meyer said, Greg is an amazing artist for creators, but please don't do this. This is bad advice. Fabian Narcisa says, Aaron, you might want to reconsider your words of advice. Derek Robinson says, it's not advice, it's reality. They're often the demands of the job. Peter Krause says, sorry?
No, you go. Keep going.
Peter Krause says, I will say that I'm in a fortunate situation with a loving and working spouse. I have not worked 12 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for weeks on end. I quit jobs when I saw that workload and was going to be unhealthy. Yes, choose wisely. Aaron Myers, when I was young, I bought into that work yourself to the bone to get ahead. Hustle culture, etc. Work 80 hours a week. Was miserable. It's not a way to live. You have Patrick Gerard. It's a shitty thing to do. Capullo can want a colorist who does 10 pages a day, and when he's hiring and cutting the checks, he can insist on that and live with the result. But there's a zero need to trash someone for having a different flow. I love Dan Moore's work when he's doing 2 books a month. I love Alex Ross' work doing less than 1. Either of those approaches may or may not suit certain projects, and sometimes that only becomes clear after the fact. Sometimes people have a project. There's a zero need to trash a collaborator for choosing the workflow that suits what they do. It would cost Capullo nothing in this case to wish the guy the best on other projects and live with whatever results he gets from having someone with different standards. So, guys, I'm going to bring it over to you guys. What are your thoughts on this? When you first heard this, PD, tell me, what's your thoughts?
I wasn't sure what was going on, and at the same time, not. Okay, I think we hear television again. But ultimately, I don't think it's that big a deal. I think the deadline pressure. I think ultimately you shouldn't have said anything about it, and maybe he didn't want the deadline thing to be on him. But at the same time, if you're working 12 to 16 hours on something, the thing is running behind. So it shouldn't really be felt by the colorist or the letterer. But obviously, these things happen to the people in the office. So I'm sorry to hear that. I don't think it's a real knockout on FCO, but I guess a lot of people felt it was. and some people agreed with Capullo, but at the same time, it was more kind of the comic pros kind of deciding this was new, so let's talk about it. It was something more that online something you see in the comic books buyer's guide back in the day, but I'm not sure it should have garnered this much thing. It's so in my opinion, and it's maybe that's why we see different inkers on Jim Lee. Jim Lee, what's the name? Was that guy? Scott Williams was supposed to be a major guy. At some points, RT Bear was doing inking at the same time. This is under the. I mean, at one point where Jim Lee was working, I mean, he was sending in stick figures for the writer to write dialogue for, and the scripter and the people in the office, they had to work from the stick figures too to get the lettering done. So I don't know how long that would take the colorist to go, but they're on the back end of all of that. So it seems like that would be something that would be the artist in case, but ultimately it's a late book. It's probably been a very successful book, so you don't have to worry about the lateness. But of course, Capullo doesn't want to be on the side of being late, even though obviously this is. So obviously he tweeted to kind of say to the fans, it's still happening, we're just behind. But that's the other problem when you have a book that's really successful. Ultimately, the deadlines go away because they're like, we're raining in money. The book is paying for itself. We can concentrate on quality. Why am I killing myself trying to get this thing done? The Doomsday Clock, anybody? Even Watchmen. Watchmen. The last two I think were late, and they said the quality was going to be so much better. Don't just you wait. And a lot of the peers were like, well, I don't see any difference in this issue as far as the line work or anything that was added to it.
Because there was no difference.
So what's your take on it, Cal? This whole thing.
Well, you want to finish up, Petey?
No, I just think, I think it's a non-issue. Maybe Capullo didn't have to say it. Maybe the peers didn't have to make a big deal of it. But when the comic book guys have their thing and they decide this is a thing to do, now you scared Capullo off of the thing, off of Twitter, which is, I guess, not a big deal either. So I don't think it's a big deal at all.
Well, I mean, I look at it totally differently. But let me hear what Cal got to say. I'm more in line with Capullo to a degree than I guess what you guys are saying, because I know it's a collaborative process, and I kind of agree. Probably he didn't need to put it out there. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest things. Here in this culture, just because you can say it doesn't mean you need to say it, right? And I think one of the guys there had a good point where he said, I think it was Patrick Gerard, where you don't necessarily need to say that. Just wish the guy good luck, call it a day, and get somebody else. But probably there was some type of frustration on Capullo's end. I mean, I'm looking at the Twitter from, or X as they call it, from FCO Placencia, and in September 2019, he's like, check it out. This is a Moon Knight cover. He's like, hey, check it out. I recently got to collaborate with Master Greg Capullo on this cover. So he's bigging him up. And then in 2021, April, he's like, oh, I want to publicly thank you for our opportunity of collaborating with you. So with Capullo also. So it's pretty interesting that he gives these public shout outs to Capullo for working with him. So something must have happened in their relationship. And I don't know what happened to him. But I mean, overall, when you hire, you always want to, you always have, when you have someone who's been working a lot and they've had time and they develop a particular type of standards, it's always difficult then when you have someone working with you or under you who doesn't have that same level of standards. You kind of do get frustrated, especially when you have other projects and things that you want to do. And we know Capullo is a pretty in-demand person. Just listen to what he said, where he's talking about he's looking at his Sicilian grandmother and how hard she had to work, and he looks at somebody like that as to how successful he is.
All right.
Capullo has been successfsuccessful. We know he's successful.
All right.
I remember we were in an interview with Snyder, and Snyder's like, Capullo's been so successful, he doesn't have to work. I mean, in fact, Snyder was like, yo, I need to make as much as Capullo, but he continues to work because, he wants to work. He has that drive in him to continue to do things. So, I think, yes, could it have been sent better? Yes. But at the same time, this is a hard business, and, and you only get ahead by by working on it. Once you're successful, like Alex Ross, then yeah, you can do one a month or two a month. You know, Jeff Johns, yes, you can. It could take 18 months to do Doomsday Clock, right? Even though you promised it, or 2 years, and you promised it to be done in less than what did you say, 6 months to a year? So it depends.
All right,
Cal,
because I'm gonna go again. You got anything for this?
this
Yeah,
better not be a tag team.
I do want to point out, okay, that he passed it to me. I said, well, let Petey finish that, and then he just took it away from me. For like,
Well, if you ain't gonna take it,
he took it away from me. Didn't say, "Oh, look, no, let me." He said, "But I want to hear from Cal, but first, let me get out all the bits I got to say, at least for this particular round over here." So, see, you don't fool me. I see exactly where you're coming from. You're not slick. This was just bottom line, on both parts. This is unprofessional. Okay, if you're getting on, unless there's some extenuating circumstances, you're expected to turn in your work within a reasonable amount of time. We all know rather, that when it comes to producing comics, it can be a grind. It's not easy. Even the writing aspect, which is usually seen as being the easier part of it, but coloring, lettering, it's not easy. It takes time. It's very easy to fall behind. Okay, that sort of thing. So it's unprofessional if you're got the job and you're not getting the work done because you want to fraternize as opposed to getting your stuff done. But I don't know what the guy's situation is. Could have family issues, personal issues, whatever it may be. So, God bless him. I hope everything is okay on his end. But the fact that he was unprofessional doesn't give Greg Capullo a card to come out and be unprofessional as well. Okay, what used to happen is if you were to say anything was like, hey, look, we know we've been slow for a bit, but we're looking forward to getting the book back to you as quickly as possible. And that's it. You don't say we're going to, with a new colorist, which is a thinly veiled thing to say we had to get rid of the other guy. Just say, look, we're going to be getting this out. And then, readers can always look. They'll see the new colorist and they can speculate as to that. But that right over there is supposed to be in-house. And you're not supposed to be throwing somebody under the bus talking about how your grandmother, how your mother or your grandmother, was over here scrubbing floors, with an artificial knee. That's unnecessary. So if you and this guy weren't getting on and you didn't like his work ethic, fair enough. But it is unprofessional to make that public. That is supposed to be a private venture between the two of you. It's unnecessary. And then you got everybody else chiming in on it, us as well. But you got everybody else chiming in on it. And to be honest, this is not something we should have been privy to. What we really should be discussing is what? The quality of the book. The book's not here. Like you just said, hey, it's making money, so nobody cares. Everybody's going to wait and scoop up the next issue. Same thing they did with Doomsday Clock. How late was that book? Like a year?
Yeah.
That book was late a year. And did it lose any steam? No. I think the 12th issue was the highest selling book of that year. Okay, the 12th issue was the highest issue. I mean, I don't know how many printings they did of it, but that was without all of the extra variant covers and all this other type of stuff. It was just like, hey, we got the audience. Everybody's locked in. We're good. So if this is the same situation, it's really not necessary to throw one of your colleagues, even if you don't he's still your colleague, even if you don't necessarily care for the guy's ethic. Okay, but it's not necessary to throw him under the bus and make this whole thing public, and then open it up to further stuff as well. And then I already said the bit about the grandmother. Just unnecessary. Not cool.
Well, I think it also goes into him saying all this other stuff and saying whether. So I think who was it? Said Nick Davis said. Yet Greg is so late on his pencils, the colorist had to quit his book. So it's like the colorist is at the end of the road as far as the comic book production line. So, and at the same time, it could just be stuff that Greg didn't like, and then he's like, in the time schedule is like, I could do that if we were monthly. We're way behind now. So I'm gonna go to the Killing Joke here, right? So Killing Joke came out, very successful. Everyone talks about the Killing Joke all the time. And then we get this book and people notice it's like, wait a second, the colors are different. And it's only through interview where you find out that Brian Boland said when it came out, he didn't like the colors. So he recolored it when they did the deluxe edition. But that was almost 25 years after the book was out. It made its money. Nothing was said about it. The artist, the inker, the colorist continued to do great stuff after that. I think they, worked with who was it? Obviously, Dave Gibbons and all that stuff. So it was a success outside of it, but it didn't. I mean, I don't think this guy's gonna lose work because he probably has a bunch of other things to do. That's why I'm saying it's not a big deal. It's not.
That's why he's not getting this book done.
So yeah, ultimately it could have not been said, and at the same time, I mean, comic pros like to do the pile on. There's something said that does, that's a little off. This is a little less off than some of the other stuff we've heard comic pros say, and they still woke up and said, you know what, we don't like it. I don't like it at all. So they just like we're jumping out the, what do they say? They just do the pile on it to it. And it's like too many people. Like people haven't, still out there, saying stuff. And at the same time, I mean, I have seen it done where it's been a little more. It's been, seen where someone says something or says less or never said anything on it. So, but sometimes it gets said. But at the same time, if it's not, Capullo has, what is it, the Quarter Owls, got all this other Batman stuff. He's the guy that's going to say, I don't like it. I don't like this color one bit. I don't know what you're doing here, but you out. But that's going even further than what these other guys said. So I take it back and just say, it's not that big a deal to me. But some of the other stuff, a little overboard, talking about his grandmother and all this other stuff. It's like saying, hey, if you want to say I didn't want to be a hubbub, I get it. I'm a big fan of Capullo, so I'll just say not bring on all this other stuff into it. It's a little, it turns into being defensive. It sounds a nice way to be defensive about it. Mars.
You got anything else to say, Mars?
Well, clearly, as always, you guys, I'll summarize it properly afterwards. But as we can see, Capullo, could he have done it better? Yes, but I definitely understand Capullo. He had the particular work ethic. So
you didn't need to do it at all. You didn't need to do it at all.
Yeah.
Doing it better is like you didn't have to say anything. Nobody. It wasn't like people outside like getting ready to like storm the barricades. You didn't have to
I didn't
say
disagree
anything.
with that. He didn't have to say it. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I'm just saying, but I could understand his frustration. He's probably frustrated that a product that he's working on is not being able to get completed because they're waiting on it. And we don't know what's going on with FCO Placencia. We don't know what's
he's also late with. I'm sorry to say, he's a product that he's a part of the late process in the production.
You just gotta be patient. Go scrub some floors and just get some of that energy out.
Yo, man, it's a tough business, bro. That's all I know. It's a tough business, and we gotta everybody's frustrated in doing things like this. So listen, let's summarize it. We all agree with Greg Capullo, and we think that artists and creators.
No, we don't. We do not all agree with Greg Capullo. That's you, and you only have that work ethic because that's what you want out of employees. Okay, that's the only reason why you're there. You want 80 hours out of employees. Like, here you go.
No.
Here's an extra dime. Get yourself some coffee.
Backing me up. 80 hours is too much.
No, what he wants is the image schedule where he gets to fire us. We can't point out the stuff he's not on schedule for. The Tom Carlin rule. I can be late. Well, I'm almost monthly. These guys are 3 months late. I'm 11 books a year.
I'm not going to contradict myself and reveal any behind-the-scenes stuff going on over here. Suffice to say, however, one of us believes in 80-hour work weeks and not for himself.
Well, I'm glad you fessed up to it. So, hey, if you like what you hear, guys, give us a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Spinner
We are.
Let's go, Yankees.
Okay.